Today, we're going to be tackling what I consider to be the first mandatory modifications and upgrades that you should do to your Mustang, regardless of what year it is. And my '03 in particular is going to be getting a mini makeover that's going to improve both how it looks and how it functions without even spending a whole lot of money. So I'm excited to do this transformation because as soon as I bought this car and I saw it sitting in my driveway, I'm like, I've got to fix this. Now, in order to do so, however, I need to get the Mustang in the shop, and that means the truck chassis needs to go outside. Now, this is for my Silverado drag truck project that I call the Ugly Truck. We're converting from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive, hence the new frame. But right now, I'm kind of waiting on a few odds and ends for this guy. My front suspension should be here any day, but the rear suspension, I actually haven't even ordered that just yet. I'm gonna be putting a 4-link in, probably a 14-bolt semi-floater, so I need a new axle housing, need all the suspension stuff, some coilovers, so I gotta just get off my butt and write that check. So anyway, we gotta get this thing outside. The HOA does not necessarily love all the cars and projects that we have going on here. So that means I need to stick this frame behind the fence. And since I don't have enough space back there right now, it needs to go on top of my trailer. And that also means we need to move like 5 or 6 different cars around. Look at that. That is hot. That's hard to do one-handed. There we go. It's gonna go. All right, that's about useless. I guess we just back up until we hear a crunch. Well, that took entirely too much time out of my day, but we now have the frame outside, we have the Mustang inside, and we can begin work on our mini makeover slash list of things that bugs me so much I absolutely have to take care of them right now, because if I don't, it'll drive me crazy. But everything I'm about to do is going to get redone at a later date with something that's a little bit better and nicer. Make sense? So the first thing on that list is this stripe that's on the hood. It's a white color. It does not look right on this blue car to me, and then it just kind of looks funky the way it goes around the little hood scoop thing. I don't like it, so we're gonna get rid of it. We'll be real quick about this. I already took some time, in fact, to pull the stripe off of the roof. You can kind of see the ghosted in stripe from where the paint has faded unevenly, and the deck lid in the back of the car. So all that is gone. We'll get this knocked out real quick. So let's get to work. Why on earth would they ground a piece of insulation? Static electricity, I guess. Leave it to Ford to use the most obscure size of fastener known to man. Look at this. 9mm, probably never been used. So it already looks a million times better just having that white decal removed. You can see here, obviously, the difference between non-faded and faded, and the paint overall is not in great shape. But I'm just gonna run a buffer over it real quick just to try to at least hide or kind of blend in a little bit of that difference, make it look just a little nicer. Now, it's absolutely worth noting here that I do not consider myself to be an expert when it comes to buffing and paint correction and bodywork. In fact, if you took a novice level and you went one step below that, that's kind of where I'm at with paint and bodywork. But I gotta say that cheap Harbor Freight random orbital buffer and a regular bottle of compound has actually made a pretty big improvement on the looks of this hood. But the biggest change comes from simply removing that awful white decal. So now the car sort of kind of looks stock, other than those, which I'm trying to find something to, fix that. But here's the hood. So I told you already how cracked and damaged it was. There's a really bad crack spot. So right there, you can kind of see it. But buffing it did make it a little bit shinier, and it kind of sort of hid the difference between the stripe area and the non-stripe area. Like for comparison, up here on the roof, there's a pretty obvious distinction between no stripe and stripe, but I will buff that at some point. But I'm just happy now because it looks so much better. So the next thing that we need to take care of that's going to make this car look and perform better is the suspension, because right now this car is so high you could run it full throttle down the Baja 1000 and not bottom out once, because there is so much space in between these hideous wheels and the fender opening. There's like a good 4, maybe 5 inches. I don't know. We got to close that gap up quite a bit. So let's continue on. Tell you what, guys, I am out of practice because I have been inside and out of these Mustangs I don't know how many times. But that was before my last job, which means the last Mustang I worked on was 2014, so I've forgotten all the sizes. Sometime in hopefully the next 6 to 8 months, this car is going to be turbocharged with a different engine in it. But part of that process is going to involve converting over to a tubular K-member, lower control arm, and a coilover assembly instead of a separate coil spring and a strut that's in it right now. The reason I'm telling you this is because if I went out and I bought a lowering spring for the car right now, basically that's money being thrown away because it won't be in the car very long. So instead, to lower this car in the short run, I'm going to be doing something that's just a little bit controversial, and I'm going to be cutting the springs. Now, I know that sounds harsh. I know it sounds kind of like caveman-y, which, yeah, I'll agree. This may not be the most elegant solution to lowering your car, but I am extremely confident in this process because I've done it twice before. I just come in here and I chop one complete coil off. Some guys will do 1 1/4, 1 1/2, or even 2 complete coils, but chopping one coil will yield approximately an inch, 1.5 inches of drop. Both of my previous new Edge cars were done this way. And in the long run, you don't have any negative side effects. The car does not ride any rougher than it did before. It sits lower, and it's really, really affordable. Free. It just costs you your time. So that's what I'm doing. That's my thought process on it. I'm not saying you should do this, but it works for me. So let's get to cutting. Oh, one thing I will say about this, don't use a cutting torch because that'll put a ton of heat into the spring and that could cause some issues. But cut off wheel, keeps it nice and cool, no problems at all. Alrighty guys, I have some awesome news. I was just browsing Marketplace and I found a killer set of wheels and tires for the Mustang, so I can get rid of those awful, ugly, hideous wheels. I don't have to put them back on the car. They're like 20 minutes away, so that's even better, and it's a really awesome deal. So as long as these things hold air, like, I am super excited. So we'll be right back and then finish up the suspension, and then you guys get to see the new look. Boom. What do you think? OEM SVT Cobra wheels from like a 97, 98 Mustang. And tires are good. Sort of. They're really old. So I got to admit, when I first bought these wheels, on one hand, I was really excited because the price was right and the timing worked out perfectly. But on the other hand, I was a little bit hesitant because they're from an older body style Mustang, and I wasn't entirely sure if I would like how they look on the new Edge car. But after getting the car lowered and pulling the strap off and getting the wheels on, I got to say, guys, this is like my new favorite factory wheel combo. They're the original size to this car, believe it or not, a 17x8. I think they have the same exact offset. It's got a 245/45 tire on it, and it just works. I mean, 5 spokes are always a classic design. The silver complements the blue. We gotta stop looking back there because we're only halfway done, but my goodness, that is like my favorite combo so far. The tires on these things, the guy told me they were old. I checked the date code. They're like 15 years old. So we definitely ought to replace these before we put too many miles on the car. That's just kind of a safety factor. But man, this thing, it just looks awesome. So let's get the rear end of the car knocked out. We'll get it lowered and get the right tires on. We'll get it outside and take a proper look at the new look of our new Edge Mustang. By the way, I grabbed this from Home Depot the other day because I can't remember what I needed to cut, but it says it'll work for steel. It's a diamond bit cut-off wheel blade. Actually works surprisingly good. Food for thought. Now, I realize that I have kind of an affinity or a pattern of choosing ugly and neglected vehicles and trying to kind of bring them back to life. But when I first brought this Mustang home, the very next day I saw it in the sunlight for the first time, I'll admit, I was second guessing my decision, and I was like, should I just sell this? Should I wasn't entirely sure, but I trusted the process, and I knew if I made a few key, simple changes, we could completely transform the look of this Mustang, and boom, there you go, guys. I don't know if you want to call this like an OEM plus. I don't know if you just want to call it de-riced, but those few simple changes have made a huge difference, like lowering the ride height, changing the wheels, and deleting the stripe. Those were the first three things I knew I had to do when I first got this car, and now that they're done, I mean, just look at it. Just look at it. It's so much better than it was before. Now, I'm not saying this is like the be-all, end-all, best-looking Mustang in the world. I'm just saying we have transformed it from where we started, which admittedly was a pretty low bar. Now, long-term, before I get to that, I was gonna tell you, the only thing I don't really like about these wheels, which is not the fault of the wheels, it's just kind of the fault of the Mustang itself. Like, look up front, you can see they are fairly close to flush with the fenders, but when you come out back here, they set in maybe, I don't know, 2 to 3 inches from the fender well. But I was looking online, American Muscle actually calls these a 1995 Cobra R wheel. That's what their style is. And they make a Cobra R replica in a 17 by 10.5. So I could buy 2 of those, put them out back, and put like a 315 drag radial on it. Or I could just keep these and, you know, put some fresh rubber on it and have like a daily driver street set, and then I'll put a drag pack on it, because the 4 main things you need to know about this car going forward: bigger motor, turbocharger, lots of horsepower, very fast. That's like my build plan in a nutshell. So we will need a stickier tire at some point. But if you want to know more about the plan and maybe some of the engine options that we potentially could choose from, be sure to check out the first video where we unveil the Mustang. Just, you'll have to overlook the ugliness because we obviously have fixed that since then. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you. Please come back soon for more car or truck content. Nobody's gonna know. How will they ever know?